This is just going to be a real fast video for today. It's a little side project I'm working on for this very weird project with this mini boat. I built this little guy about 5 years ago, and per the design, it had a 30-pound thrust trolling motor on the back, and it would go about 4 miles an hour, 4.5 miles an hour. We used it for a year or two, had a lot of fun with it, and then it got set aside. And then, per some of my videos over the last couple months, actually over last summer, this past summer, we have an Epropulsion Spirit 1.0 Plus, and I've modified this a tremendous amount, as some of the other videos show. We've got a Chrysler throttle on the dash above the steering wheel. The tiller has been removed so that we can access that on the side panel. And I'm playing around with this boat. We're going to see how well it performs with this Spirit 1.0. But something I wanted to look into was a bigger prop, and I'll explain that in a moment. When it comes to these Spirit engines, both the Plus model and the Epropulsion Evo model, the differences between those two is the Evo, you can have a remote throttle that is Bluetooth connected. The Plus, which is the entry bottom line one, which is the one that I've got, you cannot. And I realized that after I purchased it. So for my use, and I like modifying things and figuring out how they work, so for my use I took the whole thing apart. And there's the tiller. We've taken off the housing here that holds the battery. I've got a couple cables that can connect this to the battery, but I wanted to extend that even farther because for this build, I want to get the 20 pounds of battery there as low as I can in the boat. And per the design of this boat, the lead acid batteries were in the very, very bottom there to try to keep that center of gravity low. So in the middle of this project, I was doing some research on propellers, and it's kind of hard to find information on these. You really have to dig around to try to figure out what the pitch is for these Spirit propellers. There's a really nice gentleman on a particular forum that said the pitch for the stock propeller here is 5.8, I guess 5.8 inches. And he indicated that somebody had had some luck with using a Torqueedo prop that had a much higher pitch on their Spirit motor. And I believe he said that the pitch on the Torqueedo one was 8.9, and it's also about an inch or so longer. When I held them up next to each other, I haven't held them real close together, but just eyeballing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off this prop, the blue one, and we're going to see if we can put the orange Torqueedo one on. As far as the way these feel, the Spirit one is more, it's softer, it feels more, less fragile maybe. The Torqueedo one is more ceramic-like, if that makes any sense. But we're going to see if these are indeed relatively swappable. We may have to do some modifications for the Torqueedo one, but let's get these off and see how it works. The first thing that we take off is the little sacrificial anode there, and then it's just a socket wrench to pull off the prop. Here are these two props right next to each other, and you can see the orange one is considerably larger. They're both right-handed props. You can tell because of the way this is angled. If this was angled the other way, it would be a left-handed or counterclockwise prop, and I've had engines that work that way, but this one is clockwise. And as far as the back side of the prop and the way it slides on, looks like a direct replacement. The shaft size is the same. The length of the pin fits perfectly based on flipping these over. And I did slide the orange one on just to double check, and it just slides on perfectly. Very interesting. I know that the Torqueedo motors are in this size, 36 volts and about 1,000 revolutions per minute. The Epropulsion Spirits are 1,200 revolutions per minute and 48 volts. So the Torqueedo folks may have needed to up the aggressiveness or the pitch of the prop to kind of help out that lower voltage and slower revolutions per minute. I have no idea how this will perform on this motor, and especially on this boat, which will be very interesting. The other cool thing about the longer Torqueedo prop is because this sits lower on the mini boat here, that'll get our prop up to closer to the hull here, which is really what you want. And ideally, this whole thing should slide up another few inches, but that'll help out a little bit with this. As far as the material of these two, as mentioned, they're a little bit different, and the best way to share this is maybe the sound. So the blue one and the orange one. So this sounds almost more aluminum-like or ceramic-like, and this is more like thicker plastic. Interesting. I don't know if that means this is more shatter prone or more delicate. I don't know, or if it'll hold its shape better. So let's slide this on and see how that looks. Well, that is a direct replacement. There are no modifications that I can see for this. It slid right onto the shaft. It engaged with the pin, the locking pin in the back. The nut for the sacrificial anode and the bolt holding the prop on fit perfectly and tightened down. We've got our scoop here, nice and inset into the motor housing there. Some grunge from our lake here. As far as these two props go, you can see how much more aggressive the Torqueedo prop is. Kind of hard to see in the picture, but it's a lot more aggressive, and it's longer and sharper, and the blades are considerably wider as well. So for our Spirit blade, we're about 2 1/4 max. And for these, about 2 1/2. So, interesting. Would have been fun to see how this performed when this motor was on a different boat. But we'll have to wait a while until we get this little project done. Very, very interesting. This blade is the Torqueedo V90 or V9 P790. V9 P790. They're about $100. It was Veterans Day, so they took 15% off. A lot of money for some plastic, but we've got a backup prop now too. Stay tuned. We'll see how this goes. Thanks for taking a look.